a legendary species. Until humanity entered the conflict, we were just a story. Lieutenant Prax stood in the command center of Meeting Station Alpha, watching displays that showed the approaching Devourer force. 3 massive entities, each the size of a small moon, were moving steadily through the Sol system. Behind them trailed a swarm of smaller creatures, like parasites following their hosts. She had seen similar formations consume entire star systems in a matter of hours. "Admiral," she said urgently, "you need to evacuate your population immediately. These creatures will absorb every bit of matter in your system, including your star." Admiral Chen stood calmly beside her, apparently unconcerned by the approaching apocalypse. Around them, human technicians worked with focused efficiency, their hands dancing over control panels that operated systems Prax didn't recognize. "Lieutenant, has anyone ever tried to poison a devourer?" The question caught Prax completely off guard. "Poison? Admiral, these entities absorb and process all forms of matter. They're immune to toxins, radiation, even antimatter weapons. They just adapt and grow stronger." "But what if the poison wasn't chemical?" Chen asked. "What if it was informational?" Before Prax could ask what that meant, the station's communications array lit up with incoming transmissions from across the system. Human voices reported in from positions that shouldn't have existed. "Mars defense grid online and ready. Jupiter mining platform confirms weapon systems active. Asteroid belt network reports all units in position. Deep space monitor array has full sensor lock on targets." Prax stared at the displays in shock. The humans had weaponized their entire star system. Every planet, every moon, every significant asteroid had been converted into a defensive position. It was insane, paranoid, and absolutely brilliant. "How long did this take to build?" she asked. "About 50 years, Admiral Chen replied casually. "We started construction right after we detected signals from other star systems. We figured if there were other spacefaring species out there, some of them might be hostile. Turns out we were right." The lead devourer entity was now close enough for detailed scans. Prax watched the tactical displays with growing horror as the creature's true size became apparent. It was larger than any devourer she had encountered before, and the swarm following it numbered in the thousands. "Admiral, this is a full assault force. They're not here to scout. They're here to consume everything in your system." "Good," Chen said with that predatory smile. "The bigger they are, the better this will work." "What exactly are you planning?" "Operation Stubborn Mule," Chen explained, "is based on a simple principle. When someone tries to eat you, you make sure to give them indigestion." She activated the main communications array and broadcast on all frequencies. "Attention Devourer entities. This is Admiral Chen of the Human Defense Forces. You are ordered to leave this system immediately." Prax nearly laughed despite the dire situation. Ordering devourers to leave was like commanding a hurricane to change direction. The creatures didn't communicate. They simply consumed. But then something unprecedented happened. The lead devourer slowed and actually responded. The voice that came through the speakers was like the sound of grinding metal mixed with whispered screams. "Humans, we have absorbed the knowledge of your species from the ship that led us here. You are primitive. You will be consumed efficiently." Admiral Chen's smile widened. "Actually, I don't think you will." She nodded to her communications officer, who began transmitting something on a frequency that made Prax's instruments go haywire. Whatever the humans were broadcasting was unlike anything in the Coalition's technology databases. "What are you sending them?" Prax demanded. "Human culture," Chen replied simply. The transmission continued for several minutes, during which the Devourer force continued its advance, but at a noticeably slower pace. Then the lead entity spoke again, and this time its voice sounded different, confused, almost uncertain. What? What is this information? It serves no survival purpose. It is illogical. Those are our movies, Admiral Chen explained to Prax. Our music, our literature, our art, our jokes, our philosophies, our arguments, our contradictions, everything that makes us human. The Devourers had stopped their advance entirely now. The swarm behind the lead entities was moving in erratic patterns, as if they couldn't decide on a course of action. I don't understand, Prax said. How is entertainment supposed to stop them? It's not entertainment to them, Chen replied. Devourers absorb information along with matter. They've consumed thousands of civilizations, but every species they've encountered has been logical, efficient, focused on survival and advancement. They understand that kind of thinking because that's how they operate. The lead Devourer's voice came through the speakers again, now definitely sounding distressed. This information is inefficient. Why do you preserve stories of failure? Why do you celebrate individuals who sacrifice themselves for others? Why do you create art that serves no practical purpose? Because, Admiral Chen said into her transmitter, we're not logical. We're human. Now Prax began to understand. The humans weren't trying to destroy the Devourers. They were trying to drive them insane. By flooding their collective consciousness with human culture, they were introducing concepts that the Devourers couldn't process or understand. Make it stop, the Devourer pleaded. This information is corrupting our efficiency. We cannot process concepts of hope when facing certain death. We cannot understand preserving the weak instead of consuming them for strength. The human communications officer looked to Admiral Chen, who nodded. The transmission intensified, and now Prax could see that it wasn't just cultural information. The humans were broadcasting something else, something that made her universal translator struggle to process. What else are you sending? Human military history, Chen said grimly. Every time our species refused to surrender when logic said we should. Every impossible victory achieved through pure stubbornness. Every time we won by refusing to accept that we could lose. The effect on the Devourers was immediate and devastating. The swarm behind the lead entities began to fragment, individual creatures breaking away and moving in random directions. The lead entity itself started to pulse with erratic energy patterns. No! It screamed through the communications array. We are perfect. We are efficient. We consume all to become stronger. We cannot. Why would any species choose death over logical submission? Because, Admiral Chen said quietly, sometimes being right is more important than being alive. And sometimes being human is more important than being logical. The lead Devourer began to shake apart, literally disintegrating as its collective consciousness struggled to process concepts that violated everything it understood about survival and efficiency. The smaller entities were faring even worse, their formations completely broken as they fled in all directions. But Admiral Chen wasn't finished. She activated another communication channel, this one directed back toward Coalition space. All Coalition forces, this is Admiral Chen of Earth Defense Command. We're broadcasting human, cultural, and historical data on the following frequencies. Transmit this information to any Devourer forces you encounter. Flood them with everything that makes us illogical, stubborn, and impossible to predict. Prax realized what the Admiral was proposing. You're going to weaponize your entire culture? Our culture is already a weapon, Chen replied. We just never realized it before. Every civilization the Devourers have consumed was logical, rational, and efficient. They understood the concept of strategic retreat, of logical surrender when facing overwhelming odds. But humans? We're the species that looked at extinction and said, not today. The remaining Devourers in the Sol system were now fleeing at maximum speed, their collective consciousness unable to cope with the information overload. Behind them, they left something unprecedented. Empty space, where they should have consumed everything. Over the next few hours, reports began arriving from across the galaxy. Coalition forces were broadcasting the human cultural package to devourer fleets everywhere, and the results were uniformly successful. The creatures that had seemed unstoppable were retreating from systems they had already begun to consume. "But why does it work so well?" Prax asked as she prepared her report for the Coalition Council. Admiral Chen thought for a moment. "Because the Devourers are everything we're not. They're logical, efficient, and focused on survival above all else. They can understand and counter any rational strategy because they think the same way as every other species they've encountered. But human culture is fundamentally irrational. We celebrate failures, honor sacrifices, and refuse to give up even when mathematics proves we should." She gestured toward the displays showing the retreating devourer forces. "They literally cannot process the concept of a species that would rather die fighting than live surrendering. It's like trying to divide by zero. Their collective consciousness just breaks." Prax activated her ship's communication array to transmit her report. As she began recording, she realized she was about to deliver news that would reshape the galaxy's understanding of warfare, culture, and what it meant to be sentient. "Coalition Command, this is Lieutenant Prax reporting from the Sol system. The Devourer threat has been neutralized. The humans have achieved victory through methods that should theoretically be impossible." She paused, looking around at the humans who had casually saved galactic civilization by being themselves. The legends were true. Humans don't become weaker when faced with impossible odds. They become more human, and apparently that's the most dangerous thing in the universe. As her ship prepared to depart for Coalition space, carrying with it the cultural weapons that would drive back the Devourer threat forever, Prax understood that the galaxy had just learned a valuable lesson. Sometimes the most powerful weapon isn't the most advanced technology or the most logical strategy. Sometimes it's simply refusing to be anything other than what you are, even when the universe itself says you should change. The legendary species had indeed been real all along. They had just been waiting for someone to ask for their help in the right way, and now the galaxy would never be the same.